Well, what took place was catastrophic to say the least. Two members of the West Virginia National Guard, both recently sworn in, were ambushed near the White House. One soldier, Sarah Beckstrom, died. Another, Andrew Wolf, was critically wounded. To say that's awful is an understatement. And let's talk about the suspect, Rahmanullah Lakanwal. He's a 29-year-old Afghan national who entered the U.S. through a wartime resettlement pipeline created during the Kabul evacuation. He had no prior criminal record, passed through emergency vetting, and lived quietly until the moment he didn't. What took place after that is the FBI raided his residence, seized electronics, and opened up a terrorism level investigation. After that is the real national story. Within hours, the federal government initiated the most aggressive immigration shift since 2017. I gotta sit back here. Afghan asylum and resettlement programs were completely frozen. A nationwide directive ordered DHS to rescreen immigration from 19 countries of concern. 19 countries. And green card applications connected to those nations were halted. Existing green card holders from those nations were placed under rigorous reevaluation. Now, let me tell you about the countries, and one, of course, touches home with me because it includes my country of origin. The list includes Afghanistan, Iran, Yemen, Somalia, Eritrea, Sudan, Libya, Venezuela, Syria, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Togo, Sierra Leone, Burma, Myanmar, Turkmenistan. Wow, it just keeps going on. Burundi, Cuba, Laos, and the Republic of the Congo. Iran, for me, I'm Iranian, so it really touches home. And this is not a policy update. This is a massive pivot. A violent incident cracked the surface. Immigration policy was the plate beneath that cracked into pieces. And this is just not some local tragedy. This is honestly a national recalibration stretching far beyond one shooter. And it upsets me because it touches home on many different fronts. I grew up in America, I'm Iranian. So it bothers me because no matter what seems to happen worldwide that is negative, that has to do with terrorism, somehow Iran is in there. Let's talk about the level breakdown, the system, the structure, the machinery. Emergency resettlement programs operate inside a paradox. They have to move fast, faster than intelligence networks can supply verifiable data. They depend on fragmented intelligence from falling states. Yes. What do I mean by falling states? States that are falling in documented aliens, failing states, as in states that aren't doing things properly. They are failing these states. Outdated or non existent criminal database, missing biometrics, political pressure to process thousands quickly. Just get their stuff done and get them in. Yes, get them in instead of get them out. When you combine velocity with incomplete information, you create a structural blind spot. Not because the system is careless, but because the architect itself cannot proceed. It cannot proceed properly. And unfortunately, the contradiction is fundamental. Really. Humanitarian credibility demands opens up. National security demands airtight controls. These two imperative things, they do not exist peacefully. They collide, and the collision becomes visible only when an outlier breaks through. Yes, an outlier. The shooting exposed the friction. The immigration crackdown exposed the system's attempt to correct it. Let's take a look at a strategic analysis, motives and the long game. Motive one, political leverage. A violent incident tied to a resettlement program delivers a perfect political pretext for sweeping immigration reforms. Lawmakers now have the narrative ammunition. Now they can say, hey, we have a reason to boot you out of our country. But then comes in motive number two, narrative control. And never forget this: fear centralizes power. By connecting an attack to a foreign born entrant, leaders gain momentum to tighten screening, build stricter immigration walls, and justify mass reviews of existing green cards. Motive number three, institutional expansion. Once agencies receive expanded authority, they're rarely going to give it back. Expect DHS, USCIS, and FBI counterterror units to gain larger budgets, broader surveillance thresholds, more discretion in immigrant approvals and revocations. Yes. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's take a look at this. Motive number four, internal signaling. And this one is key, and I'll explain why. Washington is going to make a massive global statement. And the statement is, from this point, fuck around and find out. That's it. Humanitarian programs will be tolerated, but audited, restricted, and reversed the moment they feel security is being challenged. And the shooting created the justification. The immigration overhaul is a long term consequence. Don't think of it as anything else. But in many eyes, it was much overdue. Now, let's do some teaching. I need to calm down a bit. You ready? Here are the advanced English expressions that I used: systematic vulnerability, a weakness built into the architecture itself. So you have the system and it's vulnerable. So the weakness is inside that system itself. Policy whiplash, a sudden reaction, reactatory shift in government direction. Whiplash means when you whip your neck around very fast. So a policy whiplash means a sudden reactionary shift in government direction, which we are seeing. National security calculus, the formula weighing tolerance against risk. What this means is national, we're talking about the national government of America. Security, self explanatory. Calculus, when you calculate something, the formula weighing tolerance against risk. Public policy pendulum. Let's start backwards. Pendulum is that thing you see in grandfather clocks that go this way. Policy is, of course, the documentation written about something. Public is the public like us. So that is public policy pendulum, which means how everything shifts, the swing between openness and restriction. Institutional bandwidth, the limits of what a system can process without breaking. Now, these are the new immigration expressions you must learn. Risk-based triage. It's prioritizing or restricting immigrant based on perceived threat levels. Country of concern designation. A formal label that triggers enhanced screening or paused immigration pathways. Immigration freeze mechanism. A legal switch allowing the government to halt green cards or resettlement flows instantly. Elevated vetting threshold. Elevated means something going up, like an elevator. Vetting is a process of doing away with certain candidates or things. Threshold is what you need to cross before you could do something else. Like credit cards have thresholds. After you pass certain thresholds, they will raise your credit card limit. So again, elevated vetting thresholds, a higher bar of proof required before immigration benefits are approved. Status Reevaluation Directive, a government order to recheck existing green cards and card holders for security risks. These are phrases that you have to learn to use. They are shaping the global conversation after this effect. Now, let's take a look at step by step what's actually happening behind the scenes, because this is very important. Step one, the resettlement entry. The suspect entered through a wartime ally pipeline that was built under pressure. The data was incomplete, timelines were rushed, and the verification capacity was limited at best. Step two, interrogation without active oversight. After initial vetting, long-term monitoring does not exist. They say, hey, the guy was vetted, let him in. The system assumes stability based on a snapshot of data taken at entry. Hey, the guy did all this. Push him through. Step three, the psychological or ideological breakpoint. Something internal changes. Ideology, trauma, grievance, destabilization. No US system monitors these shifts once someone is inside America. They're there. And what happens? They run amok sometimes. Step four, the breach becomes public. The attack takes place. Private instability becomes national exposure. Step five, structural shock waves. What happens? The government responds by freezing Afghan resettlement programs, halting green card processing for 19 countries. 19 countries! Ordering a national rescreening of existing green card holders. Do you know the panic that's going to send through those communities? Yes. Expanding DHS and FBI authorities, preparing legislative action. And remember, all these things are being broadcasted on the news. So now, green card holders, everyday Joes that go to work that don't cause problems are freaking out. And let me tell you one more, adjusting public messaging to justify the acceleration. That public messaging freaks people out. The system compensates for uncertainty with force, speed, and restriction. This is not chaos. This is bureaucratic self-preservation. And, of course, a touch of Trump's fury. Trump is pissed. And that is one man you do not want to piss off. Because he is a person of action. Yes, he talks a lot. But let me tell you something. When he talks, one, people listen. Two, he does what he says. And here's why his system works and why it can't fully be stopped. No immigration system can predict psychological volatility. Really. There's no way you can predict how volatile someone can be. No amount of biometric verification can forecast radicalization months or years later. Immigration policy manages probability, never certainty. Never forget that. And you know why? I'll tell you why, and I want you to pay attention because this is very important. The US cannot eliminate risk. It's impossible. What country can eliminate risk? It can only redistribute it. Yes, it can only redistribute it. And when risk becomes visible, policy swings hand in the opposite direction. Yes, policy swings hand in the opposite direction. Unfortunately, the shooting exposed limits and the immigration crackdown exposed the response. And I think this is just the beginning of something very big to come. And here's my 2 cents, which is the real, unfiltered takeaway. This was just not about one guy going rogue. This was never about one attacker. This was the crack that revealed the pressure buried inside a system stretched beyond its data and beyond its bandwidth. Where an outlier breaks through, two things are going to happen. I don't care who you are, where you are, what you are. And let me tell you what the two things are. Humanitarian logic is questioned. Security logic dominates. Without a doubt. There is no, oh, they're good people, they're not doing anything. Absolutely not. They're of that country's origin. Get them the fuck out of America now. The US tried to balance compassion with control. The shooting ended that experiment. And I say at least for now, but it's definitely over for the time being. The immigration freeze, the 19-country crackdown, and the green card evaluation, I don't think they're temporary restrictions. They're structural repositioning, the kind that reshapes national identity and political strategy for years. Because once a law is set in, it's almost impossible to change it. And this is what happens when idealism meets reality at a very high speed, people. Well, before I sign off, let's talk about what you guys learned today. Because I'm honestly gassed. When you say you're gassed, it means you don't have any energy left. This whole situation completely drained me. But let's do our fluency recap. Systematic vulnerability, policy whiplash, national security calculus, public policy pendulum, institutional bandwidth, risk-based triage, country of concern designation, immigration freeze mechanism, and elevated vetting threshold. Use these phrases, become familiar with them, and I said them slowly so you could write them down and you could start using them every day. Because learning words is great, but activating them in your everyday conversation is better. Learn them, use them, activate them. How will you remember these words? Before you say, oh my God, I'm going to forget, take one phrase and anchor it to something that happened in the past. After you anchor it to something in the past, visualize it, picture the word in your head. Now, I have a question for you guys. Should one violent act justify a nationwide immigration overhaul? Or is that how nations lose their balance? I would love to hear it from you guys. I hope you enjoyed everything today. May God grant all of us serenity and peace. Those are my 2 cents. Stay sharp, stay fluent, and question everything, especially the part they expect you to overlook. People, I am Reza Nayabi.